The math constant that can only be described as pi is a number that has eluded mathematicians for many decades. But luckily, I've found a way to find this number. All it takes is a small concentration camp of dying babies, and with some luck, you should be able to reproduce this yourself. Here's how to do it. First, I constructed a circle in a square by hand. You'll learn the significance of this later. I didn't use a guide to make this circle, but I'm pretty sure it's good enough. After killing the slimes, I immediately erected a glass cage around the square. That way, nothing can leave. I immediately built a little something off camera. There were 3 parts to this. One was a spout that emptied into a fury hallway. Upon this spout was a small villager sex farm that I built off camera. Trick was, I fed the villagers multitudes of bread, which forced them to copulate with each other. After some time, there were enough babies to go around. I promptly killed their parents by hand and took away their bedding. I opened the floodgates for the rearing babies, but they were being stubborn, so I promptly flushed them. Look at all those babies. After the babies traveled down the spout, they were immediately enveloped in a fury fire that they stayed in for some reason. They went to another fire immediately afterwards that also enveloped them in fury fire. Believe it or not, after all this, these babies really didn't want to go into the concentration camp, and some of these little scamps ran off to the side and instantly found a way out. I killed these babies myself. I then built a fence atop the glass cage so that they would never be able to get out again. I soon discovered that the babies found themselves attached to beds. I used this to my advantage by leading them into the concentration camp with beds. But then I realized these babies weren't as ablaze as they used to be. They weren't suffering enough. I had underdelivered on my promise to calculate pi using only dying babies. This couldn't work, for they weren't dying. So I then bided my time, building a simple contraption. After assembling the contraption, it was time to activate it in order to show the babies the true meaning of suffering, and to finally calculate the value of pi with only dying babies, and to finally put to bed a case that mathematicians have been itching to crack for days. Finally, with the babies now evenly distributed all over the square, in part due to the resulting push and pull factors of the fury warmth, it was time to go up and take some screenshots of where they were most dense on the map. This will be helpful later, and by later, I mean now. The equation for the area of a circle is pi times radius squared. But if we already have the area of a circle, we can just divide out the circle's radius squared on both sides to get pi. But how do we get the area of our circle? See, let me show you. Take the circle and square we have built. We don't know the area of the circle, but the area of the square can be easily calculated. I made it out to be a 20 by 20 square and an inline circle with the same dimensions. Now what I'm going to say now is the very important part. If we have a random scattering of objects all about the square, we can get the number of objects in the inlying region compared to the total number of objects in the entire region, and multiply the percentage of objects in the inlying region compared to the number of objects in the entire region by the area of the entire region to get the area of our inlying region. And what did we just have scattered about our entire region? Or rather, our square dying babies, of course. To get the area of our circle, I had to count each agonizing baby to the best of my ability. In this village, 32 were in the circle compared to 69 total, giving us a percentage of about 46.376811594.2% in the circle. Since we had a 20 by 20 kind of square, the area of our square was 400 square units. If 46.376% of this area was the circle, this gave the circle an area of 185.507246377 square units. Now we have the area of our circle, and we know our circle's radius is about 10, due to it having the same dimensions as the square, and 10 being a half of its diameter. This means that a radius squared is 100.
After dividing both sides by 100, leaving only pi comes out to be about 1.85.
And any remaining babies used to calculate this value will live their days out here for the rest of their lives forever.
Thank you all, and happy Pi Day. I'm glad I could celebrate this ethnic holiday with you with such a tremendous feat. My name is Byron,